him and ask for a word of encouragement. So he is the real deal. Bob, thank you so much for being with us here at Lauderdale Lead today.
Oh man, my pleasure. I'm so glad to be with everybody. Lauderdale Lead, hope you're doing great. And boy, what a treat. Thank you for letting me spend a little bit of time together.
Good deal. Well, Bob, you have led people, inspired people all around the world. So would you inspire our friends here at Lauderdale Lead, our leaders in the business community here in South Florida, to dream big once again? I'll pass it off to you, Bob.
Yeah, a lot of this in this crazy time that we have, we get to be really picky about the words that we use. I put my cell phone number in the back of the book, and there was a woman who called me up. She said her friend had given her this book because she found out she had a brain tumor and they needed to do this operation. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, what are you saying to your friends? And she said, you know what? The thing about this brain tumor is when they do the operation, they take out the part of my brain that lets me speak. And I said, well, in the next 3 days before the operation, what are you telling your friends? And she said, I'm being really picky about what I say. Isn't that beautiful? If I only had 3 days to talk, man, you couldn't shut me up. I'm feeling great right now. And I'm like, ah! So be picky about what you say. You know, in a cartoon, there's a word bubble over your head. You need to keep some stuff in the word bubble. And particularly in a time where everybody's on edge, they're just dealing with their own insecurities, their own mortality, and to just know that there's a lot going on. Those of you that know me know I wear this Red Sox hat because it was my neighbor's hat. I'm not a Red Sox fan. I've never even gone to a baseball game. We evidently have a pro team here in San Diego. Who would know? But I wear it because she was a Red Sox fan. And what Jesus said is if you want to like fall in line with what God's interested in, then love God with your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I'd be really picky about what you say to your neighbors. Find some ways to connect with them. And my deal with Carol, I said, I'll wear the Red Sox hat for the rest of my life. But in exchange, every time Jesus walks by you, you need to mention my name. I don't know if she's making good on her deal, but I'm making good on mine. I've made it 61 years without saying the word virus once. Never. And now all those like virus, right? And I get it. But you know what we do? We call it glitter. We just tell our kids, we tell our friends, don't get the glitter on you. It's a small change, but those small changes are the big changes. That's going to be the secret sauce that makes your leadership. It's a quarter of a twist. If you've ever seen someone in a vineyard and then there's a big castle or cellar, all these bottles of wine, there's always a little guy down there giving these dusty bottles a quarter of a twist. And the reason they do that, the quarter twist, is that the sediment sticks to the glass. It's the way to make the wine clearer. And if you want your leadership to expand, if you want to expand the influence with your family, your friends, your kids, I'd watch what you were saying. I'd be picky about what you're saying. I'd keep a couple things in your thought bubble, and I'd give what you're doing a quarter of a twist. Delta Airlines, remember that we used to have airplanes that flew places? Delta Airlines changed at Atlanta's airport. Instead of pushing the planes out in a 90-degree angle into the alley, they now give them a quarter of a twist. They go out on a 45. They saved $1 billion a year before they lost $5 billion a year. But here's the point. You need to give what you're doing in your leadership a quarter of a twist. Do that with your employees. Do that with the people that are near you. I know it's like God just took the entire sock drawer and threw it on the floor 3 months ago. And now what we need to do is match up all the socks. Say what fits. On a typical year for the last 7 or 8 years, I've got a lot of energy if you haven't picked up on that. But my typical schedule would be about 120 cities in 10 countries every 9 months. So we're just like, go, 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 go. And I remember sitting in some Motel 6s somewhere thinking, God, if I could just get home, that would be awesome. And about 3 months ago, like heaven leaned over the rails and said, what's your second wish? Some of you guys don't know what to do. You're ricocheting off the walls. I'm just telling you, you're driving your spouse nuts. I know these things. They've been calling me on the phone. This isn't just a leadership thing. This is an intervention. What you need to do, keep a couple more things in the thought bubble. You need to be picky about what you say. Find new words to describe old ideas in your faith, in your family, in your leadership. And then what I want you to do is give it all a quarter of a twist. And where I want you to do a quarter twist is to run home. There's something beautiful about that. You just need to run home. Every job I've ever gotten, on the first day of the job, I write my resignation letter. I do write it to my boss. I put a stamp on it and the address, and it's just not fancy. It just says, I quit. And then I give it to sweet Maria Goff. And I tell her, if this job ever gets in the way of our relationship or me and Jesus, you mail that thing in. You don't even need to tell me. I'll find out. Some of you, or about half of you out there, are afraid that you're going to lose your jobs. And the other half of you are afraid you're going to keep them. Give it a quarter twist. Just quit. Call. Give me your boss's phone number. I'll call. But what I want to do is be kind of, there's a beautiful saying you guys have down in the South. It's be where your feet are. And I think one of the things that we can do is practice being fully present with one another. And some of you guys just aren't present. Even when you come home, you're not actually at home. You're actually at work. You know who you are, right? How many of you have shut your eyes at night, but you're not asleep? You're actually thinking about work stuff, or you're checking your iPhone for messages. What I want you to do to bring in a heightened awareness to what you're actually doing, get out of bed, put a suit and tie on, all of your business clothes, get back in bed, fully clothed. It'll remind you, I'm actually at work right now. If you're at the dinner table and you're tempted to check your messages, I want you to leave the dinner table, get out of your sweats, get back in your work clothes, and return. Everybody else at the table knows you're at work when you're checking. I need you to know you're working. So it isn't just an awareness and being picky about what we're saying. It's not just having knowing the reason why you're doing what you're doing, but to also then be self-aware enough to know why things are going on in your life. Like we're all insecure. What we do is we just express our insecurity in different ways. Some people express their insecurity by being mean as a rattlesnake. You know who they are. There's other people get quite like a church mouse. I'm married to one. You know what I do when I'm insecure? I get funny. The funnier I get, the more insecure I am. I learned that from little 8-year-old Bobby Goff. He was just terribly insecure. Do you know what happened? There was a particularly mean person. I'm not going to tell you my sister's name, but what Karen would do is she would call me Spot. I was covered in freckles. I still am. And there was a person that came along that took an interest in me. They got a Sharpie out and they said, stick out your arms. And I put them out. And you know what they did? They connected the dots and they made giraffes. I was the first third grader with ink on my arms, full sleeve. I had these giraffes, and it was a person who took a genuine interest in me. That's what Paul was talking about. It's Philippians 2:20. He talked about his buddy Timothy, and he says, this guy Timothy, he takes a genuine interest in the people around him. You know how you do that? You're picky with your words. You keep a couple things in the thought bubble. You start calling stuff that's viruses, you call it glitter. It's still the same stuff. It's still just as dangerous. But instead of freaking everybody out, what you can do is just be mindful and then be self-aware enough to know who's spoken things over you that aren't true. If there's a sport, it's called spelunking. And I've done it a couple times. You put a coal miner's hat on and you get a climbing rope and you go down a cave really deep, and it's a little freaky. When you get to the bottom of the cave, what I want you to do, and this has happened to a lot of people in this season of just a lot of insecurity and being home and all that, they've actually plumbed the depths. A lot of people are dealing with issues of depression, and you might be one of them. You might feel totally isolated, not just socially, but just emotionally isolated. And if that's you, would you just get real with that? You can call somebody, call me, I'll take your call. There's something beautiful about that. Just we're a community of people, and what we need to do is not just think about our stuff, but think about their stuff. But in order to be able to like take a genuine interest in other people, you need to be self-aware enough to take a genuine interest in yourself and know what's been written on your cave walls. Like who wrote on your wall, you're not smart enough, fun enough, creative enough, handsome enough, beautiful enough, whatever. These lies that got written on our wall, some of them like actually weren't true at the time they wrote them, or perhaps if they seem to be true at the time, you're a new creation. They're not true anymore. Did you know this? That the eraser was invented 200 years after the pencil. Well, now it's here. Use it. Say, what is a lie that's been spoken over me? I have a dad who's terrific. And in the Sierra Nevadas, we would go hiking around. And what he told me is that rattlesnakes, what they do to get out of the sun, they climb underneath a log. And so when you step on the log, you need to step way out because the rattlesnake will bite you if you don't. 61 years later, never seen a rattlesnake. Do you know what I do every time I see a log? Oh, I jump. It's like I'm in the Olympics. And it's because I have this limiting belief. I have this belief that under every single log is a rattlesnake. Now, my dad wasn't trying to mess with my head, but you know what happened? He messed with my head. And you're doing that to your offspring. Just saying. What I want to do is to do some work for ourselves and figure out who wrote on the wall, rattlesnakes are underneath every log. And now my dad, he was just trying to express love, but what he did instead, he instilled fear. I think he loved me, so he didn't want me to get bit by a rattlesnake, or he didn't want to suck the venom out of my calf, which is another explanation. But what I want you to do is explore some of these beliefs. Maybe your parents broke up when you were young, and you're wondering 30 years later why your relationships never really go to depth. And the limiting belief that you might have is that if I ever really give myself fully away to somebody, then they'll eventually leave. And I just want to visit that and then bring that to Jesus. I think there's something beautiful, that idea in Philippians to make your requests known to God, like to lift these things up. And this is to a God that says, I know what you need before you even ask for it. So why make the request known? I think it's making the request known to you. It's going down the cave, it's seeing what's on the wall, and then writing scripture over it. I write books and I don't put Bible verses in them because I write books for the guy at the tire store that feels far away. He doesn't buy this stuff. I just wanted to know, go get in here. Like, come on in. So one of the things that I want you to do is to know who you're talking to and know who's in your chair. Go down the cave, see what's on the wall, erase the lies, put scripture over it, but know who's in the other chair. When I walk through the airport in New York, people hiss at me because they're evidently rooting for the Yankees. If they knew I was wearing my dead neighbor's hat, they'd feel so bad. But we don't know who's under the other person's hat. And some of us don't know who's under our hat. And so if you want to move forward with your leadership, do some of that. And the craziest place you're going to get that is going to be at home. It's just going to be to run home. Forrest Gump, I love that guy. I can relate to him so much. Like stuff just happens. I'm like, what the heck? But Forrest Gump, remember that iconic scene? He'd run back and forth across the United States a couple times, and he was in the middle of the desert, and he stopped. And remember, everybody's like, he's about to say something. And remember what he said? He said, I think I'm going to go home now. Forrest Gump had been running for 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours. Don't ask me how I memorize this stuff. I'm a lawyer. I memorize stuff. What I want you to do is run home. And if we get that thing right, we get everything right. That's what I want us to do. It isn't going to be to get lost in books. It's not going to be get lost in activity. That sometimes is just medicating some of the insecurities or deferring some of the relational things we need to deal with. So just get home, and then to just be kind to people when you do. I don't know why we're wired the way that we're wired. Hey, Rob, I want you to do something with me. And you guys, as you're listening as well, I want you put your right foot up in the air. That's okay. You're all alone. Nobody will know. Put your right foot up and go clockwise with it. Okay, guys, that's to the right. Okay. Are you going clockwise? Okay, keep going. Okay. Now I want you to reach up your hand while you're doing that and draw a 6. Did your foot go backwards? I love it. You're going to have to show the family tonight. I have no idea why that happens. And I don't know why we're wired the way that we're wired. But what I want us to do is to run home to figure it out instead of running away. And one of the things that will happen is we just need to be self-aware. I've been married to Sweet Maria for 33 and a half years. I've been loving that girl for 36 and a half years. The first 3 years, she's just like, I know she knew my name because she was always walking away saying, I can't go out with you. Or like, Bob, did you leave those panda bears on my front yard? But what I did, once she gave in, for all these years, I've been wearing a mood ring. Here, check that out. I got it for $4 on Etsy. You got to get one. They're from the 70s. And so when I'm like going through my day, Sweet Maria will call me up and say, what color's your ring? And I'll look at it. I'll say, it's kind of blue with some green. And she'll say, oh, what does that mean? There's something beautiful about being aware of how you're feeling, but then sharing it with the people you love. We all need the same 4 things: love, purpose, connection, and a couple authentic relationships. If you can get that, if you can be mindful about what's in the word bubble, if you can be picky about what you say to people, if you're willing to give your life a quarter of a twist, if you want to run home after 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours, then do that and be aware of how you're feeling and express it to people. Some people it's like words are like $20 a piece and they just have difficulty finding it. If that's you, man, mazel tov. But I would say I would go look for that anyway. I'd say, okay, is there a way for me to do this? Is there a way to me to practice a little bit more patience? Can I do that? If we get that stuff right, we get everything right. And so the situational awareness is going to serve you when it comes to your ambitions. When we were talking about at the front end, know what you want, why you want it, and decide what you're going to do about it. So what you want, like if you want a convertible Porsche, get one, whatever, get 2. But they're just going to end up in the shop and cost you a ton of money. So figure out what you really, really want. What do I want more than that? I actually want meaningful, deep relationships. I want my kids to know me. I want to honor them and for them to honor me. I want them to have rich lives, but I want them to be rich in relationship. If you want, whatever it is, input that, ask yourself, why do I want it? Let's say one of the things, get super real. Don't say what you're supposed to say. Just like, this is what I want. Let's say you want to be popular. Then ask the question, well, like, how popular and to whom? The bummer about popularity is it comes and goes. One day you're popular, other day not so much. If you're a sword swallower, that's awesome until you get the hiccups. Then not so awesome. Well, what I want you to do is to want something that transcends perhaps what you do for a day job. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for all these years. And you know what I did one day? I walked into my office, I quit. It was my law firm. I got everybody together in the conference room. I took the key off my ring and I gave it to a guy. I said, this whole law firm is yours. You don't owe me a penny. Now that's a stupid economic decision, but it's an awesome new creation decision. And your spouse did not marry you so you could be an ATM. Otherwise, they would have married an ATM. Less hassle, and they wouldn't have left their socks out. What they married you for is that because they wanted you. Sweet, old, fallible, like with all your picadillos, you. And so live into that. Run home. Take some things. Give it a quarter of a twist. This isn't about self-help. This is about awareness so you can know where your needs are, so you can figure out what you want, so you can bring them to Jesus. And you can just say, I am so messed up. I'm so insecure. One thing that people don't know about me and wouldn't guess right away, I get terribly lonely, really, really lonely. Like when I'm alone, it's like, and it's a thing, I think, from being a kid. I'm not sure, I haven't plumbed the depths on that, but what I want to do is create a circumstance where people can be authentic with one another. Go to Starbucks, make your friend pay. Just say for 3 minutes, let's just be totally authentic. And here's the only ground rules. Don't you dare try to fix me. Don't say, don't feel that. Don't say you're right. Don't say you're wrong. Just shut up and listen. And then switch the table and have them express 3 minutes of authenticity. If we make that normative, it comes from the verse about confessing to one another, just getting real about it and authentic. And as you find your authenticity, as you run home, as you give it a quarter of a twist, as you know why you're doing what you're doing, as you're picky about what you say and keep it in the thought bubble, you're going to find Jesus. It's crazy because all of the other options you have for distractions have gone away. I love the discussion when all the other disciples had left. Jesus turned to the one next to him. He said, "Are you going to go too?" And he said, "Where would I go?" I'm telling you, I just want to eliminate all the other exits, all the other distractions, because we live these distracted lives. And because of that, we don't figure out what we really, really want. Then ask yourself, why do I want it? If you say, I want it to be popular, say, well, actually, if truth be known, I want that because I feel insecure. I'm looking for validation. Man, if you're looking for applause, join the circus. But if you're looking for Jesus, join the poor. Find people who are actually suffering. And here's where it comes from. Matthew 25, it says, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger. I was kind of creepy and you invited me in. I was sick and you comforted me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was in jail and you came. You never know if somebody's hungry, but you'll know if they're naked. Like one of the things I want you to do is to, instead of just agreeing with Jesus, actually do this stuff. And it's not because he needs your help. I asked him before we started, he wants your hearts. He wants you to give it a quarter of a twist towards him. He wants you to say this whole idea of I was moving this direction, I stopped, I did a 180, now I'm going this direction. I'd start with a quarter of a twist. Do that a couple times, you'll find your 180. I think there's something beautiful in saying this incremental change. And what I'm going to do is continue to bring these things, my insecurities, the things I'm working at, to Jesus. Know what you want, know why you want it, and then find out what you're going to do about it. I teach at Pepperdine Law School. Can you imagine me teaching at a top tier law school? I've been there for a decade and a half. I'm like, everybody passes the bar. But I also teach at San Quentin Penitentiary. Oh, you should see my class there. They're awesome. We were all sitting in a circle together. We had just been out in the yard and everybody's getting totally ripped. And I was talking to them about getting something off your chest. And so we did a quick polling of the guys, the 10 guys sitting around me, how much time they still had left unserved. And the average, excluding me, 107 years. So they had faced some setbacks. They had done some damage. But you know what? There was something really beautiful. We decided to create a moment of authenticity and say, what do you need to get off your chest? And each guy had the thing they needed to get off their chest. And the last guy sitting to my side said, you know what? I've been in here for 20 years. And I've been telling everybody I didn't do it. And I got framed. And he took a breath and he said, I did it. And I'm telling you, in that moment, he was the most free guy I've ever met. So my thought to you would be, man, could you just get something, find somebody who is really safe, be somebody who is really safe, get something off your chest. If we can bring this to Jesus, if we can find the strength to bring this to one another, then we can actually move forward with our beautiful ambitions. We'll get more clarity about what we really, really want, what's going to actually, not just the stuff that's going to work, but the things that are going to last. We'll know a little bit more clearly why we want it. And we'll just get as we shuffle our feet forward, we'll know what we're going to do about it. There's a guy who is a member of a gang that had been in San Quentin for a long time, and the warden let me meet with him and give him the news. I told him, here's your release date. He's like, are you kidding me? I said, well, tell you what, that's not the only thing. Instead of releasing you back to the city that the crime was committed, we're going to release you back to San Diego for your parole. And then I told him, you're hired. I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? So I don't know how this is going to turn out, but that's what we want to do. We want to just not agree with Jesus, but hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, and people in jail. If you can find one person that's all of that, they are screwed up. But you're probably going to just find pieces of that everywhere. You know what you're going to find out? You're going to find pieces of that in you. You may not be doing time at San Quentin, but you might be doing time in your marriage. You might be doing time with something you're ashamed of in the past. I'm telling you, bring that to Jesus. I'm going to tell you one last thing, and then I'll be quiet for a moment. This young man, he called me up. He never held a cell phone before. He said, "Bob, I'm standing outside the wall." I was his first call. And I'm saying, like, please tell me there's not a bunch of bed sheets tied together, right? So he said, no, I'm out. And I said, but buddy, what are you thinking? I mean, you've been in jail your entire life. What was your first thought? And he said, I've got pockets. Like, what? But here's the deal. In San Quentin, you can't have pockets because you put the wrong stuff in the pockets, right? And so he got a pair of jeans that a buddy gave to him. And in a moment of clarity, I told him to be really careful about what he put in his pockets. And that's my admonition to you. Be really careful. Be picky, not only about what you say, not only about the words in the thought bubble and the ones that escape, not just about the things that you choose to do by giving it a quarter of a twist, but to be really careful about what you carry with you and be really mindful about what you're letting go. And that's the message of Jesus. That's this idea of grace. It's this idea of forgiveness. That some of the shame that you've been carrying around, the stuff written on your cave walls, these lies just aren't true anymore if they were ever true at all. And I would move that from one pocket to the next. A quirky thing about me, because I'm a quirky guy, I have right pockets in all of my pants, all of my suits, even this pair of pants. I've got no left pockets. I cut them all out because it just reminds me that I'm just going to hang on to the right stuff, and the other stuff I'm going to let go. And this idea of making your requests known to God, who's faithful to like forgive these things of us. That's just like moving it from the right pocket to the left. It's only 18 inches, actually for me, 20 inches, but it's a small movement. It's a quarter of a twist, but it'll make all the difference. And if you do that, you're going to live the kind of life that Jesus told his friends about. And don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, if you're always like beating yourself up, get a puppy. What I want you to do is instead find your way to Jesus. Get real with a couple of friends that you can just say, man, I just need to say this. I need to get this off my chest. And then just be real, but be really picky about the words that you use. And I think there's something that happens. You know, Jesus was asked 300 questions, or he asked 300 questions. He only answered 2. He was picky about what he said. I want you to do the same thing. And if we do that, man, we're in this thing together. We'll do that. We'll just follow. It's like in the book of Numbers, it said, when the cloud moved, they moved. And when the cloud stopped, they stopped. Well, our cloud stopped 3 months ago. Full stop. And it says sometimes they stayed for a week, sometimes a month, and sometimes a year. Be like, no, be patient on this thing. Use this time to reflect on what it is that God wants you to do with him. And it's not for him, it's with him. And I'll tell you, there's no treasure map to be found. It's hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, people in jail. It's running home to your family. It's being picky about what you say when you're out. Hey, you guys, God bless you. I'm just so glad we got a couple minutes to talk together. Thanks a million.
Awesome. Bob, thank you so much. I love your enthusiasm, love your energy, love your laughter. If there was ever a time we needed to laugh again, it's now. And thank you for just your inspiration to us. Just a reminder, you can pre-order Bob's book that comes out June 23rd, Dream Big. You can go to dreambig.com and pre-order your book. Bob, one of the things that we talk about at Lauderdale Lead is that there's never a time in our life where we're not called to lead. We're called to lead ourselves. We're called to lead our families. We're called to lead our communities, our businesses. And what a timely opportunity that this book is coming out right now. There might be people listening and watching going, I stopped dreaming a long time ago. I've given up on dreaming. What would a brief word of encouragement to leaders that are watching right now to say, no, this is actually the best time to dream again?
Oh, it really is like a coiled spring. People have whiplash. They just got all of their hopes and desires. Sometimes their businesses tank. I mean, you can relate. All of us felt the stress test that got put on this. But what I want to do is turn the corner and get back to dreaming. I want you to get back to building that rocket ship that you had for your life, and like get back to the important thing. I think a lot of the shallow relationships got eliminated during this last 3 months. And you know what it left? Just the deep ones. And if you're feeling like you just don't have a lot of relationships, oh, go deep. Like, let's go find a new one, rekindle one, send a text message. Don't make a list, make a call. That kind of leadership is what you're looking for. And I think the world's desperate for it, but we don't need more information. We need more examples. Well, the more that you step in to leadership, not to prove something to a father that didn't give you affirmation growing up, but not to try to do something nice for like baby Jesus, because he is out of the crib. Read Revelations. What you're doing it because it's an expression of your faith. And that will oftentimes express itself in humble leadership. So get back to it. Whatever it was that was a big ambition that was worth it. You vet that thing by saying, why am I trying to do that? If it doesn't have to do with me, I'm doing it because it would be a beautiful expression of the God-given talents God gave me, and do that. I wouldn't be restricted to what you're capable of. I'm capable of being a lawyer. I can pass a bar exam like people can take a blood test. But one of the things that I'm doing is I'm saying, what am I called to? And I do schools now for kids in war zones. Like, that's my thing. Here's the crazy part. Although we've just finished a school in Afghanistan, we've been going back and forth for the last couple of years in and out of Afghanistan. Totally, that'll keep you regular. But one of the things that I'm doing is I'm trying to not do it across an ocean. I'm trying to do it across the street, trying to do what Jesus said. So lead where you are. Now, you can do some stuff far away, that's fine, but don't replace what Jesus actually told you to do, which is lead where your feet are.
That's good. What a great reminder. And I just want to encourage everybody, once again, you can go to dreambig.com, pre-order Bob's new book, Dream Big. And I want to encourage everyone watching. You might think, well, leadership is something for the person that's working in a law firm or a small business owner. But as I said before, we are called to lead at every stage of our life. The retiree, the single mom, the school teacher, the doctor, whatever it is, the politician, you are called to lead, as Bob just said, wherever you are. And Bob has a great message for you in his new book, Dream Big. So make sure you order that at dreambig.com. Also, I just want to remind everybody watching, Lauderdale Lead is the outreach of Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church for leaders in our community. And so at Lauderdale Lead, we talk a lot about the horizontal relationships. But if you want to know more about God, you want to know more about this vertical relationship that Bob talked about so often in his talk today, we would love for you to be a part of what God is doing here at Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church. So as its pastor, let us know how we can serve you. We care about this community. We care about you as a leader. So anything that I can do or this church can do for you, Coral Ridge Presbyterian, for you as a leader in your community, wherever God has placed you, please reach out to us. We want to walk alongside of you, especially during these difficult seasons, to allow you to be inspired again and encouraged once again. And we, as just a thank you for joining us today, if you would like a free copy of Bob's book, Dream Big, please write to the link at the bottom of your screen, crpc.org/connect. Fill it out, put down there, Lauderdale Lead. You can do it right now, and we will send you a free copy of Bob's book, Dream Big. Do it today. Bob, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Look forward to eventually having you live and in person here in Fort Lauderdale when time allows, but may the Lord bless you and keep you. Thank you so much for what you do.
Oh, thanks, everybody. Keep leading with love. Bye.
Bye now.